We just got news yesterday that the patch 10.5 changes are close to ready. It's almost the final numbers. A few things may change, but probably not. So let's go over the patch and see what's actually happening in this one. Before we do that though, let's talk about what Riot said that they wanted to do, and let's see if they accomplished it. So Riot wanted to make changes to the melee's top, which includes bruisers and juggernauts. The first change on the list is Titanic Hydra. Titanic Hydra is getting a small buff to your max health damage, but it already have. So right now it have 1% on primary targets and 2.5 on secondary targets. Now that's going to change to 1.5% on primary targets and 3% on secondary targets. Now what does this mean? Most bruisers are going to have around 2,500 health, which if you divide it by 200 means it's a 12.5 damage boost. Now after armor is probably going to be around a 7 damage boost or so. It's a small buff, it doesn't really matter that much. It's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't really do that much. The second item on the list, Ravenous Hydra buff. So the lifesteal goes from 12% to 18%, and then the active radius goes from 400 to 450. Active radius doesn't really matter, you should be able to hit it regardless. However, the lifesteal is huge, that's a 33% buff to the lifesteal aspect. And if you think of bruisers, they're the kind of champs that wants to split push and slowly poke down to their enemies and chunk them down. They don't want to do all-in fights all the time, which means this is a step in the right direction. I like this change a lot. I don't know if it's going to be OP or not, probably not, but it's perfect. It's a really good buff and it's exactly what I would want. Next we got Blade of the Ruined King. Melee basic attacks deals 8% damage before, now it's going to be 12%, which is a huge buff. Now Blade of the Ruined King is based on current health. If the enemy target have 2000 health, that's an 80 damage increase. That's enormous, that's huge. Sure, it's before armor and then they have 100 armor, it's only going to be a 40 damage increase, but that's per every single auto attack, which is absolutely huge. Obviously it does more if they have more health and less if they have less health, but this is a step in the right direction again. It's actually one of the biggest buffs I've seen so far, and I like it. Now the only thing that scares me about this buff is the potential for funneling. Master Yi and Taric together are already extremely scary. If they start funneling this item, that could mean I lose a lot of elo when I play against them, which would not be so good. Now let's get to the next one, turret plates. Riot increased the gold you get per plate from 120 to 160, which I think is really good because there's too much roaming going around, and now people are going to focus more on the lanes, which is nice. Then the turret plates takes 20% less damage from ranged champions, which is great because ranged are currently dominating in that aspect, especially bot lane, to some extent mid lane, but mainly bot lane. And then another thing they also did, resistance per bulwark stack per nearby enemy champion goes from 35 to 45, so if you have a lot of champions nearby, that means the tower is going to be stronger. Overall, this is a good change for top lane. I think melee top lanes need to be buffed a little bit. It's going to help them out a lot. The only problem is this is going to snowball champs like Sett, Darius, and other lane bullies. Then we have Spellthief and Spectral Sickel, the support item. This change basically just means that the effect is only going to happen when they're near somebody, so it's not going to work in top lane anymore, and it's going to work perfect in bot lane as it does already. So it's essentially just what every single person on the entire planet have asked for. We don't want supports top. They're gone now. Good job, Riot. We appreciate it. Boots of mobility are getting nerfed by 100 gold. I think this is mainly just because mid laners that spam boots of mobility. For example, Kayne and so on, they buy them and then they spam ganks everywhere. The gold platings is going to help against that already, and then the mobility nerf is also going to help against that. So this is going to be nice. I think you're going to have less roaming and people sticking more to their lanes, which I think is a good thing for the game right now, because roaming is too powerful. Boots of Swiftness is getting a tiny buff from 55 movement speed to 60. It's not really going to be a big deal. Maybe some people pick it up now from time to time, especially split pushers. But again, it's not a big deal. Alright guys, let's get into the nerfs. So Riot have decided to nerf a bunch of champions. Some of these are top lane, and I'm happy about that. Now let's look at the first champion on the list, Ornn. Ornn's brittle proc is being nerfed by 2% of Emax health. So it goes from 12 to 10 and 20 to 18. Depending on the level. Now this isn't the only change that's in store for him. Also, his upgraded items which are unique to Ornn is getting delayed by 1 level, which I think is huge because right now his mid game is too strong when he gets those levels, those upgraded items, and delaying that a tiny bit is going to help him be more balanced. It seems like Riot didn't over-nerf him and they just nerfed him a little bit to actually make him a balanced champion now. Good job on that. Sett is getting a massive nerf in the top lane. His base armor gets reduced by 4, his base health regen gets reduced by 1 from 8 to 7, which is huge, and then his health regen per level gets reduced by 0.25, which is a 33% nerf, which is actually pretty big. Also, his ultimate slow duration after you use it goes from 1.5 to 1 second, which I think is good. It makes it a little bit harder to hit your W, but it shouldn't be a problem, and I think that's still going to be fine. Overall, the Sett nerf is going to hit him really hard. He's a massive lane bully right now. He wins almost every single matchup. He might not win every matchup anymore, and that might change him from being a champion that can't be countered. You can always first pick him into a champion that could potentially be countered by some matchups. We don't know that yet. Now the next champion on the line is Rammus. He's getting his attack speed ratio reduced by 0.025. I think this is just a number change because I want the numbers to look better. It doesn't really matter that much. It's a very, very tiny nerf, so nobody cares. Alright, let's get into the next one. We have Amumu as well, another jungler. Amumu's ultimate is getting reduced in the cooldown from 130 seconds to 150 seconds level 1, and then it still goes down to 100. So high level is the same, and low level ultimate it's going to be a 20-second nerf. Good change overall. Amumu is pretty strong. I saw him a lot in my solo queue games. I actually enjoy the champion. I enjoy playing with him. So I do want him to be viable, and I don't think this nerf is that huge. Next we have a support champion, Blitzcrank. It's getting nerfed by 3 armor. It's not really much. I think it's going to be a tiny change. It's not going to change when he's picked. It's not going to change when he's played or how he's played. He'll just be the exact same champion but slightly weaker. It's not going to have much of an impact. And last but not least on the nerfs, we have Bard, another support champion. Damage per 5 chimes goes from 15 to 12. Now let's get into the more exciting part. Now we're going for buffs. So Kayne is getting a small buff in the jungle. He should be getting hit orbs at about a 3% faster rate. And then his W slow goes from 60 to 70%. That W slow is really annoying to play against. I'm not excited for this one. I think he needs a slight buff, so I think it's fair. But I'm not excited. I don't want to play against it. We'll see how it goes when we get in game against it. Next we have Graves. He is getting a small buff to his base magic resist and to his magic resist per level. He gets 2 more base magic resist and then he gets 0.25 more per level, which is quite a good buff. I actually think mages are OP right now, and this is just going to let him have a little bit of an easier time against mages. Another buff he's also getting is his Q mana cost goes from 60, 65, 70, 75, 80 to always being 60, which is huge. Now he doesn't have as much mana problems anymore. And his Q cooldown gets reduced by 1 second. Overall, nice changes. I don't really see Graves jungle that much. I actually see him in the mid lane more often, and I think this is going to be a nice buff, and hopefully we can see him back in the jungle soon. Next we have our Ice Queen Lissandra, who used to be top lane as well, but now it's mainly mid lane. She's getting a Q ratio buff from 0.7 to 0.8. It's one of those kind of buffs that's just extremely small, right? Thinks his champ's already banished, he just needs a tiny bit of help, and this we won't really see a change for this one. Next on the list is Nico, and there's a lot of changes to Nico. So attack speed per level gets increased from 3 to 3.5, and then also attack speed ratio is going from 0.645 to 0.6875, which is a huge buff overall. She's going to attack much faster than before, and this is actually going to be massive, especially in combination with her W. Now her W is also getting buffed. At level 1 it's going to be the same, which is 50, but at level 5 it's now going to go from 130 to 150, which is a decent buff overall. It's a lot of damage. However, most Neekos don't actually max W until last, so I don't know if it's going to change much, and maybe it'll be the same as before until super late game. Her EAP ratio goes from 0.4 to 0.6, which is quite a big buff. Now Neeko mostly maxes Q first and E second, so this is going to be a little bit more useful than W, but it's not going to be super overpowered unless people start changing the skill pattern. Last but not least on Neeko, we have the ultimate, which is getting changed a lot as well. The ultimate damage used to be 50 to 110 depending on your level, with a 0.5 AP ratio, but now it's going to be 75 to 125, which is a massive buff already. And now the AP ratio is going to be 0.75, which is a huge buff. That's a 33% buff. We can really tell that Riot wants Neeko to be viable, and is one of the champions that are really looking at buffing a lot this patch. Next we have Twisted Fate. The blue card AP ratio goes from 0.5 to 0.9, which is almost a 100% buff in the AP ratio. His red card is also getting buffed with his AP ratio from 0.5 to 0.7. Now this buff isn't as big, but you have to remember that red cards are AoE damage while blue cards are single target only. I think this is a great change because it makes Twisted Fate have the option of doing more damage with blue cards, and actually he have to think more about how he picks his card. And also overall it's just a big buff which he needed. Twisted Fate isn't that good right now, he needs to be stronger, and he is getting that from Riot. Next we're starting to go to the AD carries. We have Sivir who's getting a Q damage changed a little bit. So the Q damage base damage is going to be nerfed, but the ratio is going to be higher. Overall this should end up being a buff once Sivir have a decent amount of AD. And then also her ultimate movement speed is being increased from 20% to 30% at max level, where right now it's always 20% at all level. Next we have Kaisa who's getting a lot of changes. So the Q AP ratio goes from 0.4 to 0.25, that's a nerf. The Q upgrade missile goes from 10 to 12, which is great. The W damage goes from 20 to 120, that's before, and now it's going to be 30 to 130, which is a small buff. Also the AP and AD ratio is getting buffed a little bit. And last we have the W upgraded CD refund going from 50 to 70%. Which overall I think this is great. She's getting a small buff. You don't really see Kaisa that much, but when she is viable she's very oppressive, so I don't actually want her to be viable. However, this pushes her a little bit in the right direction, where it's not too overtuned. Next we have Alistair, who's getting a base health increase from 575 to 600. That's a 25% buff, which is nice, it's gonna help him a lot. Then also his passive can collect charges at any time, where before he could only do it when it was off cooldown. So now he's going to be able to keep healing more in lane, it's going to buff him a little bit. He was already a good champion, that's around 50% win rate, so I think this is just gonna push him in the right direction of being a viable champion versus being not as good as the other ones. And last but not least, we have a Sauna Buff. Sona is finally able to get buffed again because they changed Spellthief, so she's not going to be used top lane. She's getting a base AD buff from 45 plus 2 to 49 plus 3 instead. And her E self movement speed is always going to be 20% now instead of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Overall, this is probably a nice buff. Sona bot lane isn't seen that much and she was only abused top lane. And now that she's not viable top lane, this should be nice because maybe we'll see her where she actually belongs. Now here's the last thing on the list. We have the jungle pool buffs. Riot wanted to make a lot of champions viable in the jungle because junglers don't have a wide enough champion pool, so they wanted to put Darius and other champions into the jungle. Now, Darius' passive damage to monsters goes from 120% to 175%. We have Mordekaiser, passive max damage to monsters going from 25 to 120, that was before, now it's going to be 28 to 164, which is a huge buff. Then we have Poppy's Q max damage to non-champions going from 40 to 120, which is going to be 50 to 160 now. This could actually be huge for Poppy in lane as well. I don't know about that because that one doesn't specify monsters. That's going to be an interesting one because Poppy right now, pre this change to bruisers that's coming this patch, is one of the best top lane champions. And with this patch, if that actually happens, she might be overpowered in lane. We'll see what happens. And then Brand got changed to next patch instead, so he's not going to get a change. Overall, that's it for the patch review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to see more videos like this, like and leave a comment. If you guys don't really care about patch reviews, we won't make them again. Do you guys have the power of your likes and comments? And you guys tell us if you want more of this content. If you don't, we just make different content which we know you guys like. Peace, boys.